And so then I was like, I like this. And then, so I had the chance to join the Army Reserve. I needed some money for college. And I took a test and they said, oh, you can be anything. And there's a whole list. And one of them was combat medic. I was like, yeah, that's healthcare. And so then after I graduated college, I was struggling, trying to get a job. I was in the Army Reserve as an officer at the time, but couldn't get a full-time job. And so I just got a job at the local healthcare system as an anesthesia tech, leveraging that, medic stuff. And one thing led to another. I got promoted. But I just realized this is it. And so
welcome to the Risk Never Sleeps podcast, in which we discuss the people that are protecting patient care. I'm Ed Gaudet, the host of our program, and I am pleased today to be joined by Ed Marx, CEO of Marx Advisory. Ed, good day. How are you, sir?
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm doing really well, and I'm super excited about spending this time with you.
Excellent. So new year, new gig for you. Tell us about the Marx Advisory.
Yeah, this is what is high risk propositions, but I raised my kids to be entrepreneurial and sort of do their own thing and control their destiny. Meanwhile, I was always, working for someone else, some other organization, and there's pros and cons for sure, but there came an opportunity where I could sort of flip the script on my career and just kind of go independent. And my first customer is actually my previous organization. So it worked out beautifully. So it gave me a chance to launch and give myself a pretty long runway to make this happen. So
nice.
Super excited about it.
That's terrific. You've done a lot in your career. Obviously, you've been a healthcare leader, but you've been an entrepreneur, I think, in many ways. You've written a couple of books, right? 2 books or 3 books?
Yeah, maybe 5 or 6.
Five or 6. Yeah. So I lost count. Any new books in the works?
Yeah. I'm really stoked about a couple. One is coming out this spring. I did with Chris Ross, CIO of Mayo Clinic, and it's on patient experience. But what we're really excited about is that it's written for the public. It's not written for healthcare, because we got to the point that, we've been writing a lot about and talking a lot about patient experience in healthcare. We've moved the needle, an inch maybe?
Yeah.
And so we're like, you know what? It's not going to happen inside of healthcare. It's going to happen outside of healthcare. So we wrote the book from that angle, but we do have a chapter called Dear Colleagues, which we included in the epilogue. And hopefully people will, our colleagues, our peers will get a benefit from, just full of different ideas and things we learned. We did tons of focus groups, learned a lot from patients. And the other book is a more personal book. So we're trying to figure out the exact timing, my wife and I wrote a book on the physical aspects of marriage. It's very juicy, let's just say. And, but no one writes about it, but it's important. So anyways, we hope to drop that book sometime this year, 2023.
Excellent. What is that, like the Marx Sutra? Like, what is that?
Yeah. That would have been a good name. Dang. It's not too late to change the name. Yeah.
Now, and your wife's in healthcare as well.
Yeah, she's a DNP. She's been a clinician for 30 years, mostly at the bedside, has been a director of nursing and things like that along the way at fabulous organizations. And she just got to the point where, I'm going to get my doctorate. And then once she had her doctorate, she was like, what I really love is helping people like change their lives. But people won't pay to go talk to someone to change their life, but they'll go pay to get Botox, and they'll go and pay to, have other things done that are more superficial, but that opens a door for them to have these deeper conversations. And so that's what she loves about it. It's like it's just the extra is doing, helping them look nice on the outside, but what she's really doing is ministering to them in the inside.
Oh, that's terrific. I think you're absolutely right. There's really a need for that, certainly. And I think in the next decade or so, that's going to be much more important, especially for the next generation coming up.
Yeah. And the side benefit, listeners can't see it, but my forehead's looking a lot better lately.
You look amazing, actually. I was going to ask you, are you doing anything there?
My wife, I'm her guinea pig, to encourage men to come in as well.
I do. Well, all the kids use it now, so it's amazing. They're all using Botox, all the kids. They think that it's going to, in 30 years, they're going to look like they do today, which maybe they will. We'll see. Yeah.
I know. I'm shocked. You do see, I see super handsome men. I'm like, hey, that guy's really handsome. And, how is he pulling that off? I was so naive until, my wife opened a med spa and I figured it out. They've been doing Botox. I got it.
All right. Well, I would never be confused as someone that's handsome using Botox. So, although my wife's asked me about, are you using Botox? I'm like, no, I just use like Neutrogena, like
Yeah,
retina,
yeah.
retina, same type of thing.
You're a beautiful man to me.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. And back at you. So how did you get into healthcare? Like,
Yeah. When I was 16, I was a janitor. Some friends were janitors at a healthcare setting. It was like an outpatient clinic with an emergency room attached. And it was a great job. It was after hours. So as long, obviously the emergency room was open 24/7, but the rest of it was a clinic. So they closed at 4:30. So
no.
as long as you spent your 3 hours, which what it took to clean the place, sometime between 5 p.m. and 8 a.m. the next morning, so it could have been Friday, you could wait till Monday morning at 8. It offered a lot of flexibility. It's a great job and it paid really well. It was like $4.65 an hour, but this was back in the day, Ed, you might remember. I mean, you're not as old as I am, but it used to be like back then it was like 3.25 or something for minimum wage. So here was like $4.65. I was in the big time. And so I was sweeping and mopping and had my Sony Walkman on, listening to some tunes. And you've got a great song list and playlist. And it was probably Black Sabbath and the AC/DC. I was
nice.
But I just like, wow, I'm supposed to be in healthcare. I just knew it. There's no voice or anything, unless it was Geddy Lee or something.
Ozzy Osbourne was calling you into healthcare. That's what you're telling me.
And so then I was like, I like this. And then, so I had the chance to join the Army Reserve. I needed some money for college. And I took a test and they said, oh, you can be anything. And there's a whole list. And one of them was combat medic. I was like, yeah, it's healthcare. And so then after I graduated college, I was struggling, trying to get a job. I was in the Army Reserve as an officer at the time, but couldn't get a full-time job. And so I just got a job at the local healthcare system as an anesthesia tech, leveraging that, medic stuff. And one thing led to another. I got promoted. But I just realized this is it. And so ultimately I worked in strategy. So I sort of worked my way up as a computer project manager, head of the computer systems, basically for the OR. But then I got my first salary job in a strategic planning. And then of course the IT department, back then, stereotypical IT people couldn't communicate well and had a great product. So they asked me to get involved as a sort of liaison with physicians. And I did. And then our oldest daughter was born. It was a really traumatic birth situation. I realized, wait, the technology that those guys in IT have, that could save her life. And so I'm going into a long story, Ed. Sure enough, that's what happened. So her life was saved. And I realized, the reason I was born, my career is to be in healthcare at the intersection of clinical, tech, and strategy and save people's lives. And gosh darn it, the next opportunity I had, I became a director of IT at another hospital. And my career just went from there.
Wow, what a great story. Did not know that. That's great. So you've seen a lot. Probably not much keeps you up at night these days. But if anything did, what would it be?
Security, cybersecurity.
Good answer. Good answer.
I tell you, one reason people said, Ed, how come you don't go back and be a CIO? Because I still get recruited today. Hey, come be CIO at some great organization. And I think I have a little PTSD going on or something and not to make light of PTSD, but so I'm being facetious, but serious at the same time.
Yeah.
And that, the cyber things really concerned me. And I took them very seriously because we make, as IT professionals, we've made a solemn promise to our patients that not only are they going to get the very best care, but we're going to keep all their information safe. It's very personal information. No one wants it out there on the web. And so you make this promise and it's hard to do. And so thankfully there's organizations and leaders like yourself that help with that. But it's like, that's what would keep me up at night, almost literally, and I was always the guy and I know you operate the same way. If my people had to be woken up in the middle of the night, I wanted to be woken up in the middle of the night too. Exactly. So I was on all those calls.
Yeah.
We had a cyber issue and dang, and I would just listen. Well, it wasn't much I could do, but I wanted to be a part of it and make sure everything was getting taken care of. So that's my long answer.
I think that's the military probably, right? In you. I have a similar background and it does. You want to be there on the front lines with your folks, with your team. Yeah. You certainly, especially when things are going bad, right? So,
yeah, all the time.
That's great. That's great. So tough couple of years with the pandemic, obviously, for a lot of people. What are you most proud of this year, personally and professionally?
Well, I think on the professional side, it's sort of taken. So I took over as CEO for a consulting firm, and I had a mission, and that was to really improve, increase, diversify offerings, and it really help organizations with digital transformation. And we did that as an organization. So I'm really proud. And there's some amazing people that are there continuing to carry that on. Forming Marx Advisory was a big, risk and big step. And I'm proud and I'm thankful for all the people that helped me. So those are a couple things on the professional side. On the personal side, I think just wrapping up the book with my wife, and we're thinking about doing some speaking together now. We've done some speaking together previously, but now on sort of on the dual career couple and how do you make it work? We've got multiple kids and they're all doing all right, and we think we have a couple things to share. We learned the hard way, and so that's kind of it on the personal side.
That's great. That's great. And I love watching your family grow through Facebook, obviously, as a bit of an observer. And I'm sure you get to see some stuff we're working on as well as a family. But and I think that's like one of the benefits of social media and Facebook and things of that nature. Outside of healthcare, what would you be doing if you weren't doing healthcare or the current advisory job?
Yeah, if I had to do something different full time, I would love to write more and speak more. So that's why I'm super excited about this venture with my wife. She's, as you know, from Facebook, other areas, she's super adventurous with me. And so we'll go bound around the world, to climb and hike. And so we've learned a lot in that process and growing a family. We're both second married. And so we've learned a lot. So we write more about it and then speak more about it. And that's kind of fun because that way you can give back and help people. And, I always think about speakers. I love watching speakers. I learned so much from speakers. And a lot of speakers, they might just be super inspirational, which is awesome. But, we want to inspire and motivate and give you practical tools because after you leave and that motivation or inspiration wears off in the day-to-day realities of life, it's like you need something like, hey, what were those 3 things I can do again to help me?
I agree. Some of those speakers, I mean, really great, but empty calories. Right?
Yeah. Tastes great.
Tastes great. Exactly. That's great. And what would you tell your 20-year-old self if you go back in time?
Yeah, it's funny you should ask because earlier today I had on my YouTube channel my 3 sons, and they're all in different industries, and we're talking about digital disruption in their industries, and they're 20 to 25 to 35, actually 26 because one just had a birthday, 26 to 35. So they're within a 9-year span. And, we still talk a lot and they still ask for advice, although I think I know I learn more from them than I do. And that I think would be to take risks early and often. A friend of mine says safety third. And so I think sometimes I played it too safe, and I find a lot of people play life too safe and then they have all these regrets. So take a lot of risks. That's what I would say.
Yeah, no, that's terrific. So speaking of that, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you this question, since this is the Risk Never Sleeps podcast. What is the riskiest thing you've ever done? And by the way, the bar's high now. I've gotten some really phenomenal answers to this question.
I know. I've heard some of them, and I don't think I'm going to compete.
Oh, come on! I've seen some of your hikes.
I know. I was going to go with some really hairy, bodacious rappels that I've done. But I'll tell you the biggest risk, and I do it regularly, and that's get out on the dance floor with my wife. So my wife is a phenomenal dancer, and she looks like she's 20. And so we go out there dancing all the time, and people are looking at us. One is they're like, who's that guy with the 20-year-old? And then they're like, he can't dance. And I dance. I am a white guy. I dance like and my wife is brown skinned, and she's got a beat to her. She had Bollywood. She's stunning. She's stunning, Ed.
Just on.
Well, I'm really lucky, man, for sure. And so it's a risk every time I go out there because but here's a good thing. Here's the redeeming part is once people get over the shock, like, oh, who's that old guy with her? Then they don't look at me at all. So there's no more risk. We're just staring at her. So I don't have to worry about it. But we just went dancing the other night. It was the same thing, it's like, that's a risk, man, getting out there on the dance floor because she is so good. And I'm like mediocre.
Salsa?
Yeah, salsa, merengue, mostly bachata is sort of our thing.
What is that? I don't know that. I'm familiar.
Yeah, bachata is also a Latin dance. It's a little bit easier I find it easier than salsa because there's like a basic move that's not hard to learn, almost like a two-step in country. And out of that is the formation of everything else. So if you get that basic step, you can add in a lot of things you might know from other dances. So you just keep that special bachata rhythm. So that's sort of those are my high risk things. And I face it on. Can I tell you a really quick risk thing?
Yeah,
just
absolutely.
So because this was funny. I had a team building 20 some years ago. I was at University Hospitals in Cleveland. They wanted to go to Ottolenghi River or something like that in near Pittsburgh. And we did this whitewater rafting and I was so naive and I fell out. I almost died, literally almost died. Ooh. Scared to death, swore I would never whitewater raft again. Fast forward 3 weeks ago. So a friend of mine, I'm up in Vail. He lives in Vail. He's like, you gotta do this. And I'm like, no, I don't do whitewater rafting. He goes, don't worry. I've been in the water 17 times this month and it's safe and you don't have to do anything. You just sit in front. I've got this brand new boat. I'm going to take care of everything. Don't worry. So we're cruising along, Ed, and I swear this happened. So I texting my family, you got to head face your fears head on. You got to take risks. Don't be afraid, overcome, all that kind of motivational BS. And so there we are. We hit a class 4 rapid and he does, I won't tell you who he is and you'll know because you know him. He does exactly what he told me you should never do and why rafts flip. So as our raft is starting to flip, he gets thrown out of the raft. So the raft comes back stable, but it's me in the front without any oars going through class 4 rapids. I'm just holding on for dear life and I'm looking for him. He's in the water. I'm thinking he's going to drown. He grabs onto the raft and then he has to just hold on because I couldn't help him. And the best thing was for him just to hold on. We went through a series of class 4 rapids and then he got back on the boat and everything was good, but I'll never raft again.
How long were you in the class 4 rapids? Was it like 30 seconds or was it like 3 minutes or?
It seemed like 3 minutes, but yeah, it was probably less than 1 minute. But I was scared for my life because of my previous experience.
Yeah.
I faced my fear. I did it, but I don't need to face it a second time.
Yeah. How about going to the Bridge of Nowhere and bungee jumping off of it? What about that? Have you done that?
I have not done that. Have you? What about you?
No.
What's
the scariest thing I've ever done?
Yeah.
Oh boy, slam dance in a punk bar, probably.
Yeah, that can be dangerous.
I've done a lot of risky things. This is a rated PG show, though. I can't really.
All right, well, you have to give me the real scoop.
There you go. I'll do that. But you've rappelled, obviously. Rappelling is risky.
Yeah, rappelling. Yeah, we did this. This was the funniest thing we did. So I did a lot of rappelling in the Army, and so rappelling not that big of a deal. But we did a series in Puerto Rico of seven waterfalls, and the last one 250 feet. And you know what it's like. You look straight down, and your life passing. I was scared out of my wits, and there was no turning back. There's nothing you could do.
Right.
And so my wife went first. I thought I was being like, honey, you can go ahead and go first if you want. Cause I was scared. And then she goes down, she does it like a champ, and it's like, oh my gosh. And I had to do it. And then I fall halfway down. Obviously I'm safe because I've got the rope, but I lose my footing and I'm getting beat up by the water. The entirety of the waterfall gets channeled right on top of my head on my helmet, getting just beat up. And I'm standing there like cursing. And I'm like, what am I going to do? And I realized no one's going to help me. There's no help. You got to move your butt and keep going. So I finally got going and obviously made it down. But yeah, rappelling scares me to death.
And there's no on belay at the bottom, right? I'm sure.
Just a big pool.
Now, did you go face first or did you go back?
No, I went back, but I've done rappelling and rappel. Have you did you do that in the Army?
Yeah. Offered helicopters actually in the Army.
Dang, you're like 101 airborne or
Well, I didn't do
Airfall?
that, but I did during. So I went through um, ROTC, and I was at Fort Sill. Also
Okay.
as a field artillery officer, and
Boom,
yeah,
boom.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. King of battle, something like that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
good. It was a good time. But amazing lessons from the military that um transition nicely into the corporate world, and really, I think, set you up for success in leadership roles.
Yeah.
So given that, what's the hardest lesson you've learned in your career?
Boy, hardest lesson is, dang, I think I've been too trusting at times. I mean, it's just, I love people. I'm a big people believer, believer in people, and I always want to believe the best. And yeah, I've gotten stabbed a couple times. And so that's sort of the hardest lesson is like, not everyone is for you, you know?
Yeah.
But you don't want to be jaded. That's the other thing.
No.
It's like, I
Agreed.
didn't want to like keep going in my career and then watch out for everyone. Like they've got ulterior motives. So I just decided I'll just take it, I'll get through it, whatever happens, hopefully people don't take advantage of me, but if they do, in the end, things will work out. And so that's the tack that I've taken, but it was painful when it happens, right? When someone, does something to you that isn't right. And,
Especially if you've given your trust to that person.
Yeah.
That's the worst. That's the worst.
I've had it. Yeah. I've had it a couple times, like probably 3 times. And,
Oh man.
but it's helped shape who I am, and I don't want to change. And so that was the counsel I got from people. My friends would call me and because they knew what happened or whatever. And they're like, Ed, don't change. We know that sucked, but don't change. And so I don't let it change me.
Well, and it obviously thickens your skin. And makes you a little more resilient.
Definitely.
But you're right. I'm the same way. Like I'm so trusting, and until I get burned, and I'm like, why are people like that? I don't understand.
Yeah. I feel sad for them. I can see a couple of people right in my head right now as we talk about it. Just sad for them. And then if I look at their lives, they're just sad. And so they don't know any better, I suppose.
Yeah. Right. That's right. All right. Last question. You've seen my post on music. What are your top 5 music? Your albums? Your top 5? Let's do the desert, the island. We're heading on. The plane is crashing. You can take 5 albums with you. What would they be?
I know. And that's why I love following you on Facebook, because you got the best. Like I said in the very beginning, you got the best playlist, song list. You've seen all the concerts and all that kind of stuff. I think one of the top would be A Night at the Opera.
Oh, phenomenal choice.
Yeah.
Oh, that was one of the first albums I bought when I was a kid. That's great. That's a good album. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a classic, and I love that one a lot.
And that's Queen. That's Queen for the younger listeners who are wondering what that is.
This one may surprise you a little bit, but I love the music, and it got me into dance. The soundtrack for Saturday Night Fever.
Phenomenal. No, I just was talking about that the other night. That's a great soundtrack.
Bee Gees and
Bee Gees are phenomenal. Yeah,
they were. That was some good music, and so I really like that. Synchronicity.
The Police.
The Police. Good. So I love the Police. I love their early work, and Synchronicity is very cerebral. Sting is the masterful, not only musician, but his lyrics, are pretty profound. So those are sort of my top 3 that I would go with.
Okay. Now you mentioned Sabbath earlier, which is just a surpriser. Surprise one. So any hard rock, any real like Zeppelin or? Yeah.
So in terms of, so I was, a lot of my early formation was London Calling by the Clash.
Clash.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
So I went through, so I was this rocker guy, and I'll give you one rocker album. I was this rocker guy, and then I got into punk, and so Clash was sort of like a lead into punk. And then even early U2, right, was sort of punkish. And so the album October
and boy,
yeah,
absolutely.
So I love Gloria. It's one of my all-time favorite songs, and so that's really cool. Yeah, in terms of rock and roll, I loved. I had a double album from Black Sabbath. I'm spacing on what it was called, but wasn't there a double
Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath, I think. Was that?
Yeah, yeah.
Is that the one where you opened it up and there was a woman in a coffin?
Yes.
And that song, The Wizard with the harmonica, was on that.
Yeah.
I love that. That's
yeah. So I love, and I got into Ozzy Osbourne, when he broke away, and I loved a Crazy
Train. Yeah, that's my stage song, by the way. When I would speak in Imprivata, they would cue that up and they would play that as I came up on stage. Yeah, I love that song.
That's it.
That's fantastic. Well, Ed, it's been a pleasure. Any last parting thoughts for our listeners today?
Well, Ed, thank you for having me. And I think, go out and take calculated risks, safety third, all the things we talked about. And then, obviously a lot of your audience is in cybersecurity, and never shortchange anything when it comes to cyber, and protect our patients. So
excellent. That's an excellent way to end the program. This is Ed Gaudet from the Risk Never Sleeps podcast. If you're on the front lines protecting patients, stay vigilant, because risk never sleeps. And we are out. Ed, thank you. That was terrific. Yeah, my friend. Yeah. Awesome.
Thanks for having me on. Yeah, go ahead.
I didn't know you were a Clash fan.
Yeah, I should have worn what shirt? Oh,
you have the Clash, Linda.
My gosh.
Oh my God. We're still recording, so I may have to pull that clip into this.
Yeah. I actually wearing my Clash hunting. I saw them. Fantastic. I saw them at Red Rocks in 1992. I went to basic training.
Yeah.
My head shaved. So when I went to the concert, it was like the second day back. I wore my combat boots, my bottoms, my brown shirt. I fit it. People thought I was a punker all the way.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah.
I had shaved head not by choice. And anyways, that was a great concert.
That's so funny. I did the same thing, came out of boot camp, went to see REM, like high and tight combat boots. I had like the green flak jacket on. I was a complete nightmare. I'd gotten thrown out before REM shows up on stage. I got thrown out, right?
Wow.
So I went back to the bus that Michael Stipe was on, and he basically brought me back in through the back. Yeah. There's more to it. It's a longer story, but it was really cool.
Yeah. And you were like, what, 18, 19 years old?
Yeah, I was 18. I didn't, out of control.
Yeah.
Needed to get back. My girlfriend was in the bar. My friends were all there. They had no idea I'd gotten thrown out.
Wow.
I was standing at the front of the stage for the opening act, screaming that they were losers and they should get off the stage. And a complete maniac, right? So stupid.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, a pleasure. Really great to talk to you again.
Likewise.
Let you know when this goes live. Best of luck. And if I can help you out with the advisory at all, let me know.
Yeah, I will do. And then give me a couple months. We took a hiatus from recording because I have so many backlog, and I feel bad. I was like, when's it coming out? I'm like, 3 months. But I'd like to have you on the show as well.
Oh, I'd love that. That'd be great.
Yeah.
All right, Ed. Thanks. All right. Have a good night. See ya. Bye.